Can only be the new dawn of a new era because Donald Trump is in charge. We've already heard what he's going to do with illegal migrants. Let's have a listen to what he's going to do with sex and gender.
I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
I mean, again, I'm sorry, it's similar to his statement about illegal migrants. It's genius. It's straightforward, common sense. He calls himself now the party of common sense. The British government, over the past sort of 10 years, has allowed all this madness to happen. James, I mean, it's not difficult, is it? You just say, right, here we go. You've got two genders, male and female. If you come here illegally, we're going to deport you. If you come back, we're going to jail you. If you come back in and kill someone, we're going to put you to death. It's great. I love it. Let's talk to Charles Feldman, co-host at KNX News Radio in Los Angeles. Charles, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Now, we're going to have some fun with this, aren't we? I mean, he's got 4 years to go. He hasn't even started yet. He's done more in 2 days than the rest of the world's Western governments have done in about 10 years.
Well, he certainly has said more in the past 2 days than a lot of governments have done in the past few years. But remember, it's going to take quite a lot of time to do even half the things that Mr. Trump says he wants to do. He still has to get through the bureaucracy, whether he fires them or not. He still has to get through Congress, regardless of which party ends up controlling it. And
well, he's got the Senate already, and he's more than likely to have the House as well. So what's going to stop him?
Courts, because already there are a dozen or more court suits that have been filed, more are on the way. Some of the judges at the federal level are Trump appointees from when he was president the last time, so that may work in his favor, but an awful lot of judges are not. And, you know, Biden found that a lot of the things that he wanted to do were thwarted by the federal courts, or at least delayed for a considerable amount of time. So there are some things he can do without question on day one if he wants to by executive order. But there are an awful lot of other things that, no matter what his promises are likely to get delayed for considerable amounts of time.
But this is the trouble, isn't it? That we have found ourselves in a place where there are judges, people who are supposedly sensible, people who are supposedly, you know, imbued with the rights of individuals in the world, and the people who are supposed to be the clever people who think it's wrong to denote that there are only two genders. I mean, this is where the world has gone insane, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. But look, again, you know, you have to operate under what is certainly in the U.S. would be constitutional law. And sometimes constitutional law does fly in the face of common sense. And you can cite innumerable examples of that. And, you know, gender identity is likely to be one of those. But again, that doesn't mean that anyone, Mr. Trump included, can snap his fingers and change that overnight. It's just not going to happen.
How did somebody snap their fingers and change the gender rules overnight? Because that appears to be where we are. You know, which maniac decided it was a great idea to have 72 genders? You know, sorry, there aren't.
No, but it didn't happen overnight is the problem, of course, right? I mean, this was something that evolved over a considerable amount of time and through many different administrations, both Republican and Democratic administrations.
Oh, yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, but that's because none of us were paying attention, Charles. I blame you personally, and I blame myself because we let it happen. And nobody, you know, I mean, people said to me over the weekend, do you know what happened? Somebody way back when decided, you know, to come up with this term, you know, woke. because it was a good thing. And guess what happened to the Democrats? They ended up with Kamala Harris getting absolutely trounced in every single election, in every single state, in every single county. Don't forget, CNN went, let's have a look and see how she's doing in the counties of America, whether she's doing any better than anyone did in 2020. And literally there was nothing. Literally nothing. And that's where they ended up, because people are sick to death of this nonsense. And common sense, which Donald Trump is currently espousing, needs to take back control, I think.
Well, I think you're right. I think that one of the things that this election has shown is it was very much, I think, a rebellion against, and I hate the word woke, but I think that it was somewhat of a rebellion against.
It was, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think if you look, you had the map up just before, if you look at the red areas, the Trump areas versus the blue areas, there are precious few blue ones and an awful lot, there it is, and an awful lot of red ones. And I think it is a lot of the United States saying that we just don't go along with all.
Well, it's practically all of the United States, bar a few cities and a few bits and pieces in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can see it's different in, New York City, and it's different where I am in Los Angeles, but not when you go throughout most of the other 50 states. And if you want to, you can't see it on the map, but I think if you throw in Hawaii and Alaska, you'd find pretty much the same sentiments.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's have a look at what Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to say, because apparently there's a mother of all battles going on inside the Democratic Party as to who should take the blame for for Kamala Harris doing so badly.
Speaker Pelosi, how are you feeling today?
I feel I'm so inspired by the Vice President's speech. She has showed so much strength throughout all of this, including today. Of course, I'm very disappointed.
And another 4 years of Donald Trump?
I don't want to even talk about him today.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, back to the £26,000 fridge, I suppose, for her. What's wrong with them? Why are they so incredibly unable to congratulate the genuine winner of the situation? What's going on?
Because they're genuinely in a state of shock. I've talked over the past couple of days with a lot of high-ranking Democratic politicians, and they just don't, and I think they're being honest about this, Mike, they honestly don't know what to make of the Trump victory. They don't know what to make of the demographic groups that he did pretty well with, certainly better than he did 4 years ago. They don't know what to make of the geographic areas that he did much better in, including my hometown of New York City, which is a surprise to lots of Democratic politicians, a Democrat with the capital D. Right. I think that what you're hearing and seeing from these politicians like Nancy Pelosi is they're bemused. They don't know who to point the finger at, and they are pointing the finger, by the way, at each other. Right. There are innumerable explanations in the past few days that have surfaced. Was it did Trump win because Biden dropped out, too late in the game? Was it because we didn't have an open convention that could have nominated a better candidate than Kamala Harris? Is it because maybe, physicians are trained, Mike, to know that the simplest explanation is often the best explanation, right? And it may be as simple as Kamala Harris was a rotten candidate.
Yeah, I think she was. Well, she was a rotten candidate a year ago, and suddenly she became the best candidate of all time, just a few months ago when the Democrats decided to ditch Biden because he clearly wasn't up to it. But one final question, Charles, because we're a bit short of time today. What happens to all these lawsuits which are still outstanding for Donald Trump?
You mean the ones filed by? You mean
Georgia, Florida? We've got the sentencing to come in New York. What happens?
Well, good question. The federal ones. It is likely that once Mr. Trump is sworn in as president and appoints an attorney general, that he will direct the attorney general of the United States to drop the federal cases against him. The state cases in the state of Georgia and the one that he was convicted on, the multiple multiple counts that he was convicted on in New York, those are state cases. That's a little bit more problematic. He does not have the authority to drop those cases. However,
but it's a very minor infractione. It's hardly a criminal, indictment that's going to send him to jail for 40 years. It's not even an imprisonable offence, is it?
Yes, no, actually it is, and he was convicted in 34 felony counts.
Yeah, but there's 34 felonies. It's actually one thing.
Yes, that's right. But here's the main
So it's
point.
one thing.
Right, but the point is that the U.S. Supreme Court recently gave a ruling that said that somebody who is a sitting president can't really be prosecuted for things that they may have done, even if it broke the law, that may have had something to do with their official capacity as president. So some of the testimony that was given to that New York jury, the jury that found him guilty, was testimony about things that Trump did while he was in the White House as president.
Yeah.
So it may turn out that the New York case will have to be dropped because of the U.S. Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope so. Charles, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Charles Feldman, co-host at KNX News Radio. More